What if the most toxic person in your life isn't actually destroying you, but is secretly redirecting you toward the most powerful version of yourself you've never met yet? What if every manipulation, every guilt trip, every sleepless night they caused you was never actually about your weakness, but was always about their profound fear of your strength? Here's what nobody tells you. Toxic people don't target broken people. They target bright people, warm people, people with so much light inside them that threatened, insecure souls simply cannot stand it. You've been reading this situation completely backwards. You thought surviving them meant fighting them. But smart people, truly deeply smart people, have discovered something so counterintuitive, so shockingly simple, that it sounds almost impossible until the moment it completely transforms your life. They don't fight toxic people, they outgrow them. And today, in this speech, I'm going to show you exactly how they do it. Because once you understand these lessons, once they land in your heart the way they're meant to, you will never, not for a single second, allow another toxic person to steal another day of your extraordinary, beautiful, irreplaceable life. Stay with me. This changes everything. What if the most painful relationship of your life was never sent to destroy you, but was sent to teach you something so profound, so earth-shatteringly important, that no classroom, no book, no mentor could have ever delivered it the way that person did? I want you to sit with that for a moment. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't comfortable. It isn't the kind of advice that says, cut them off and move on. It goes much deeper than that. It goes into the core of who you are, what you believe about yourself, and why, despite everything you know, despite every warning sign you recognized, toxic people still manage to find a home inside your heart. And I need you to hear this clearly from the very beginning. That is not your failure. That is your humanity. We live in a world that teaches us to be strong by being hard, to protect ourselves by building walls so thick, so tall, so impenetrable that nothing and nobody can ever hurt us again. We wear our emotional armor like a badge of honor. We say things like, I don't need anyone, and I've learned not to trust people, as though disconnection is the same thing as strength. But here's the shocking, uncomfortable, revolutionary truth that smart people eventually discover. Armor doesn't protect you from toxic people. It actually makes you more vulnerable to them. Because when you're wearing armor, you're not living authentically. You're performing. And toxic people are experts, absolute experts, at identifying performance. They can smell inauthenticity the way a predator smells fear. They find the gap between who you're pretending to be and who you actually are, and they plant themselves directly in that gap. That gap becomes their home. That gap becomes your pain. So what do smart people do instead? They make the most counterintuitive, terrifying, world-changing decision imaginable. They choose to be vulnerable. Now, before you close this out, before you say, that sounds like a recipe for getting hurt even more, stay with me, because you've been taught a lie about vulnerability your entire life. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is not naivety. Vulnerability is not handing someone a weapon and saying, please don't hurt me. Vulnerability is showing up in your full, honest, authentic truth and saying, this is who I am, these are my values, this is what I will and will not accept in my life. That kind of radical honesty, that kind of grounded self-awareness is absolutely paralyzing to a toxic person. Think about it. Toxic people thrive in confusion. They need you doubting yourself. They need you questioning your own memory, your own instincts, your own worthiness. The moment you stand so completely in your own truth that there's no confusion left for them to exploit, they lose. They simply have nothing left to work with. Vulnerability isn't the door they walk through. Vulnerability is the lock that shuts them out. But vulnerability without boundaries is just chaos. And this is where so many beautiful, deeply feeling, extraordinarily generous people make their most heartbreaking mistake. They confuse having a heart with having no limits. Smart people, people who have truly done the inner work, who have sat with their pain long enough to understand it. Smart people understand that boundaries are the most loving thing you can offer both yourself and the people around you. A boundary is not rejection. A boundary is not cruelty. A boundary is not, I don't care about you. A boundary is, I care about myself enough to be honest about what I can and cannot carry. And here is what will shock you. Toxic people aren't actually angry at your boundaries because your boundaries hurt them. Toxic people are furious at your boundaries because your boundaries expose them. When you say, I won't accept this treatment, you are holding up a mirror. You are saying, look at what you're doing. And people who have built their entire identity around never being accountable for their behavior find that mirror absolutely unbearable. Their rage at your boundary is not proof that you were wrong. Their rage at your boundary is the single most powerful proof that you were right. Now let's talk about something that nobody warns you about when you enter the world of toxic relationships. Something so insidious, so quietly devastating, so perfectly designed to keep you trapped that even the most intelligent, self-aware people fall for it completely. Shame. Toxic people are shame architects. They are construction workers of self-doubt. They build elaborate structures inside your mind that convince you, slowly, methodically, with extraordinary patience, that you are the problem, that you are too sensitive, that you are too demanding, that you are too much of everything that makes you you. You're overreacting. Nobody else has a problem with me. You're so difficult to love. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? Do you recognize those words? Do you feel them somewhere in your body right now? Because that's where shame lives, not in your mind, but in your body, in that hollow feeling in your chest, in that tightening in your throat when you try to speak your truth, in that exhaustion that goes so much deeper than physical tiredness. Shame tells you to stay silent. Shame tells you that if people knew the real story, they'd blame you too. Shame tells you that you somehow deserve this. And here's the most important thing I will say today. Shame is a liar. The antidote, the only antidote that has ever worked, that research has proven again and again and again, is empathy. Not empathy for the toxic person. Empathy for yourself. Finding one safe, trusted person and saying out loud, this happened to me, and I'm ashamed, and I need someone to hear it. The moment those words leave your mouth, something miraculous happens. Shame cannot survive being spoken. It exists only in silence and secrecy and darkness. The second you bring it into the light of genuine connection, it begins to dissolve. Not disappear, dissolve. Slowly, imperfectly, beautifully. Let's talk now about something that will challenge you in a completely different way. Smart people, people who have genuinely transformed their relationship with toxic energy. Smart people stop fighting battles that were never theirs to win. This one is hard. This one takes everything you have. Because if you're the kind of person who loves deeply, who gives generously, who genuinely believes in the capacity of human beings to grow and change, then the idea of giving up on someone feels like a moral failure. It feels like betrayal. It feels like admitting defeat. But here's the truth that will set you free. You cannot want growth for someone more than they want it for themselves. You cannot love someone into accountability. You cannot sacrifice enough of yourself to fill the void inside someone who refuses to look at their own wounds. You cannot be patient enough, understanding enough, forgiving enough, accommodating enough to fix someone who doesn't believe they need fixing. And every second you spend trying, every ounce of energy you pour into changing the unchangeable, that is energy stolen directly from your own becoming. That is time taken away from the relationships that are mutual, from the dreams that are possible, from the version of yourself that is waiting, patiently, hopefully, desperately, for you to finally redirect that love inward. Smart people don't give up on toxic people out of coldness. They let go out of wisdom. They understand that releasing someone from your life isn't abandonment, it's acknowledgement. It's acknowledging that you are not responsible for anyone's growth but your own, and that is not cruelty. That is the deepest form of self-respect. Now, I need to address something that happens right in this moment, the moment of letting go, the moment of choosing yourself, the moment of drawing the boundary or having the courageous conversation or walking away from something that has been destroying you quietly for years. This moment is uncomfortable, profoundly, physically, emotionally uncomfortable. And your brain, your beautifully protective, deeply well-intentioned brain, will tell you to retreat. It will say, maybe you're overreacting, maybe things will change, maybe the familiar pain is better than the unknown freedom. Comfort is a cage dressed up as a home. Smart people have learned through their own tears, through their own sleepless nights, through their own moments of standing at the edge of a choice that terrified them completely. Smart people have learned that courage is always more expensive in the short term and always cheaper in the long term. The courageous conversation costs you one moment of discomfort. The avoided conversation costs you years of quiet resentment, growing anxiety, and the slow erosion of your own voice. Choosing courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. Choosing courage means you are absolutely terrified and you take the step anyway because you have finally decided, firmly, fiercely, irrevocably decided that your peace is worth more than your comfort, that your future is worth more than your fear, that you are worth more than the relationship that has been slowly convincing you otherwise. And now we arrive at the final, most beautiful, most quietly radical truth of all. The people who are most immune to toxic energy, the people who seem to move through the world with a kind of grace that toxic individuals simply cannot penetrate, they're not special. They weren't born with extra resilience. They didn't escape difficult childhoods or hard relationships or devastating betrayals. What they did was make a choice, a daily, ongoing, sometimes difficult choice to live wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly means with gratitude, even when gratitude is hard, especially when gratitude is hard, because gratitude is the language of abundance, and toxic energy can only survive in scarcity, in not enough, in I don't deserve, in nothing ever gets better. Wholeheartedly means with joy, unapologetic, unashamed, even inconvenient joy. Because toxic people need you joyless. Your joy threatens them. Your laughter confuses them. Your happiness removes you from the dynamic they need to survive. Wholeheartedly means with genuine connection. Not the performance of connection, not the appearance of having it all together, but the real, imperfect, honest, I'm struggling and I need you kind of connection that builds the kind of relationships toxic people can never imitate and never infiltrate. When you commit to wholehearted living, truly commit, not as a concept, but as a daily practice, you don't have to fight toxic people out of your life. They simply find it increasingly impossible to remain there. Because darkness cannot coexist with someone who has committed to their own light. So here is where we land. Smart people handle toxic people not by becoming harder, not by becoming colder, not by building walls so high that they lose themselves in the process. Smart people handle toxic people by becoming more themselves, more honest, more boundaried, more courageous, more connected, more rooted in their own worthiness that no amount of manipulation, shame, or cruelty can ever uproot them again. The toxic person in your life, past or present, they did not break you. They revealed you. They showed you exactly where your boundaries needed to exist, exactly where your voice needed to be louder, exactly where your self-worth needed to be rebuilt from something far more solid than other people's approval. You are not damaged by what you survived. You are informed by it. And that information, that hard-won, costly, transformative information, is now yours to use, not to build walls, to build wisdom. The smartest thing you will ever do is decide today, right now, in this moment, that your story does not end in survival. It begins there.